right, don't think it'll be any secret on what side of the issue I'm on, but I'm gonna go for it. Thank you for hearing my testimony. I want to say that I trust librarians. As a writer who doesn't have a rented office where I do my work, I depend on the quiet space libraries across the state provide. When I need a book, libraries find them for me. When I need an issue from the 1977 Providence Journal or a 1921 issue of a long defunct Woonsocket newspaper, I get it at a library. Librarians are the first line of defense for our democracy and against the forces of fascism. Limiting the ability of librarians to supply information to people out of misplaced fear, ignorance, or silly calls to protect children is the beginning of the end for our democracy. Over the years, librarians have built a code of ethics and a philosophy of providing free information to all. Librarians protect us not by limiting access to certain books or materials, but by giving us the tools and the access to navigate the tricky politics of our world. I implore you all to trust the librarians. I implore you all to protect them so that they can protect us. And I think, this is a thought I had and I wrote it down. Maybe it makes no sense, but I'll throw it out anyway. If it helps, think of this as Leobor for librarians, right? That we're going to trust librarians to do the job, that they're going to regulate themselves, that they have a code of ethics. And then, I know people are objecting to Leobor, and I do want to on many levels, but think of it, I'll go further. I have an objection to elected officials banning books. Yes, 100%. As a political system, that's what fascism is. Political officials telling us what we can and can't read. Whether they have the power of the purse or not, it doesn't matter. That's what that is. I don't want politicians telling me what books can be in the library the same way I don't want politicians telling my chef what seasonings to use or telling my doctor what instruments to use when they're operating, right? We trust that they have systems in place. And if you don't trust librarians on some fundamental level, that says more about you than it does about librarians. I do trust librarians. They have never in my life steered me wrong since I was a 6-year-old kid in Warwick Public Library, learning how to read in that library. They have always catered to me in a way that gave me age-appropriate books, satisfied my interests, and never let me down or failed me. And, for whatever that is, good or ill, whoever I am, that is what I think about librarians. And I think it's really important that as a body, you protect them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Representative Dewberry.
Yeah. Steve, just a quick question. I'm sure you're not trying to say that all librarians are saints or perfect, right?
No,
okay.
No,
so the question, it's a rhetorical question. You can feel free to answer it. But the issue is ultimately, where's the line drawn? It's one thing to say I trust librarians. My father-in-law was a librarian, he's a university librarian. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I was a trustee of a library for 11 years. I liked the two librarians we had. But at some level, there's got to be a tension between who makes final decisions. You're right. Most of the time, librarians make decisions fine, but at some level, the people who pay the taxes and the people who are elected by them have to have some oversight. Isn't that what? I'll let you talk, but this, at the end of the day, isn't this about oversight? And what this bill is doing is it's eliminating the ability for elected bodies to have oversight over librarians, just saying they're professional. We wouldn't do that for other professions. You use the Leobor. Yeah.
We just heard testimony that talks about what kind of oversight there is existence in libraries already to do just that work, and it gives elected officials and regular people who, by the way, we shouldn't draw too big a distinction from them if we want to really maintain our democracy, the right to contest a book if they want, and there's a system in place for doing exactly that. So I don't know what more you as an elected person want. Do you really want to be in a position of micromanaging libraries?
No, I don't, and I don't think it's possible. But to interrupt you, but a lot of the people coming forward and testifying tonight are sounding like you sound, so basically saying, look, just let the librarians do it. And I'm saying I don't know where the line is, mm-hmm. but this bill as written goes well beyond where the line should be, is my point. That's all I'm saying. Maybe some examples in other states where people are doing goes the other way. I get that. Mm-hmm. But this is way too permissive.
We're talking about tweaking the bill slightly so that we get to the gist of it without destroying it. That's why we held it for further study, right? But that does not talk about. Well, no, it isn't. But theoretically, let's talk. But then that's one thing. But we're not. But we need to understand that as a body, you can make a decision here to support the general principles therein, without let's say opening up unheard of litigation or whatever. I will also say that if a librarian is fired for sticking to their professional duties, for following their code of ethics, but politicians don't like their books or selections, absolutely they should have a right to sue. right? I mean, are you saying that they follow every rule and everything properly, and because some politicians say, well, we still don't like that and we're going to fire you, that's okay? I mean, is that the kind of power we want to give our politicians?
No, but every situation is fact specific on that too. And I don't, we have a lot of people waiting to testify.
Sure.
If a book got someone fired, I agree with you. But if it's a whole, if a librarian comes in, has whole sections devoted to things that the community doesn't want, and refuses to change, and the local council
honestly,
says enough. I mean,
I've been in almost every library in the state for hours, and I have never seen a book.
I don't think this is a problem in Rhode Island, which is another point.
Library, because I go into Central Falls Library, I see plenty of books in Spanish, right? I go into East Side Library or Rocha Beaubrand, I see plenty of books in Judaica, and it caters to the community, right? The community wants to see certain types of books, and they get them because the librarian's job, first and foremost, is to serve the community, and they do that well.
And you're proving why we don't need this bill.
Well, or am I saying that because we've seen threats against librarians in the state too, like West Philly had one, we heard, right? And we've had that, and there's more coming, right? I mean, don't feel like this is like stopping right now. I mean, it's only been on the uprise that people are objecting to libraries, and it's across the country and in the state. And we have a policy in Rhode Island, I think, of getting ahead of the national trends. I mean, starting with, somebody mentioned Roger Williams, right? He got ahead of the trends and said, something, we're going to preserve certain rights because it's important to preserve them. And, it wasn't like it was a huge call worldwide to like have freedom of conscience. He sort of invented the concept and did it here in Rhode Island. And, we lead the way on this stuff. So again, we can do freedom of conscience here again in a way. And it doesn't have to be such a strong out of craziness. It's a matter of saying, these are principles that we believe in. These are things that are important to us. Libraries are important. Information and, the systems that we have, I think is really important. And don't forget, like Ben Franklin kind of did free libraries, and it's a part and parcel of what is in the DNA of America. And I think we should preserve that as best we can.
Any further questions from members of the committee?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you, Steve.